What does that sound, you ask?
From the #1 station, you come.
Welcome to the Rec Show podcast, a show dedicated to beatmakers around the world. Kick back, relax with the host Gldnmnd.
It's a real good feeling when you never give up on yourself, when you always believe in yourself. You see, many of us are afraid to try. We give up because we doubt our ability. It's called the psychology of performance. And I want you from this point on to work on attributing your success to your ability and your failure to effort. I want you to always stay at level 1 and 2.
Hey man, I appreciate. I want to say thank. Love, man, love, light, peace, love. You know what I mean? Freedom, all that stuff, man. Yo, welcome to another episode of the Rec Show. This is episode number 29. I go by the name of Gldnmnd. I'm your host, man, and I appreciate you for checking out the Rec Show. Any episodes, this episode, like all the future ones, all that type of stuff, man. Do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, man, and go ahead and follow me at Gldnmnd.bandcamp.com, and then follow me on Twitter at The Rec Show. All right, The Rec Show, TheRecshow, and on Instagram it's The Rec Show Pod, TheRecsHowPod. Alright? Yo, so listen, man. First of all, I want to say thank you for checking us out, man. Thank you for vibing with me. I hope you count your blessings and not your problems. And we got a dope episode for you, man. I hope y'all ready to snap your motherfucking necks, man. I hope yo, y'all don't even understand, man. Like, yo, somebody looking out for me, man. Cause I'm just starting this, and then I'm just shoot one shot and asking people like, yo, like I appreciate it. I think they dope. I ask, they say yes, they say no. Either way, we gonna rock. We gonna keep going, man. So this guest is no different, man. We going down under, man. We got a Sydney, Australia beatmaker, man, from Planet Names. All right. Nintendo games and cartoons sparked his fascination with music first. He's a martial artist, man. He does a whole bunch of things, man. So, man, I want y'all to give it up for TatzumaKiii. All right, TatzumaKiii. All right, TatzumaKiii. Yo, go ahead and follow that man on Bandcamp. Follow him on Twitter, Instagram, all of that, SoundCloud, all that type of stuff, man. All right. Yo, we're going to get to know him. We're going to get in depth as well. We're going to get to play his music. Y'all going to vibe. Yo, y'all going to vibe out, man. So smoke them if you got them. Go ahead, pour yourself a drink. Go outside. Look under the stars. Play this. Sit back. Relax. We'll be back, man. TatzumaKiii, man. Peace and love, yo. Yeah.
Hey, what up, y'all? Y'all know who it is. It's your friendly neighborhood Namekian, aka TatzumaKiii, and you are now listening to The Rec Show with Gldnmnd.
You are now listening to Walla, a compilation of spaced out future beat shit. If your diet normally consists of lo-fi beats to study to, listening to this tape, front to back, could be dangerous. You will not be accustomed to the extreme levels of head nod factor contained on this record. The swing and low frequencies are specifically crafted to break your fucking neck. Please see your physician before listening further. Now Mekian sound will not be held liable for any injury caused by listening to this tape. Listen at your own risk. Walla walla, gang gang.
Yo, that's the intro from his album, his dope album, man. His dope beat tape called Oala, O-A-L-A, man. Check it out on bandcamp.com. Check him out, man. The link's going to be in the description of the show. Yo, man, let's get into the interview part of it, man. So, TatzumaKiii, man, thank you for being on the show. And for B-heads that might be asleep, please introduce yourself, where you're from, what your name means, and how you even created this dope name, man. So let them know, man.
So my name is TatzumaKiii, spelled T-A-T-Z-U-M-A-K and 3 I's, always with a capital T and a capital K. Now the word is initially from Nihongo, which is Japanese language, right? And but my inspiration for using that name comes from the Tatsumaki Simple Kyaku. Now, if you're a Street Fighter head like I am, you know that in the move list of Ryu and Ken, the Tatsumaki Simple Kyaku is the Hurricane Kick, right? And I just thought that name Tatsumaki was ill, and I'm a Street Fighter head, and a lot of cats don't realize I'm a lifelong martial artist. Like my 2 art forms is martial art and music. And cats that know me before music, they know, I'm associated with martial arts to them. A lot of y'all, I'm associated with music, but I'm a martial artist, by trade and by lifestyle, as well as musician. So, but anyways, so I'm such a Street Fighter head. I liked that name, the sound of that name Tatsumaki, and I thought that would be ill. And of course, everybody had their own, evolution of names, right? Tatsumaki is what I landed on. I ain't even gonna talk about the other shit unless you ask me. But anyways, so in the Western audiences, we translate that as the Hurricane Kick, right? And I liked the thought of hurricane because I like the wordplay with hurricane, meaning an intense wave. And waves at the end of the day, in another sense, that's sound. Music, the sonics is waves. And I like to play on that. But then when I looked it up, actually the Japanese connotation of Tatsumaki is tornado, actually. So to them, it's tornado kick. So at the end of the day, in a translation, it's translated as tornado. But it comes from the Tatsumaki Simple Kyaku, which was the hurricane kick that was taught to Ryu and Ken by Master Goken. And Master Goken picked it up from Master Gotetsu. That's the lineage of that technique.
Yo, alright, Tatsumaki, man. Yo, so listen, man, how did you begin your journey into music? And then what gives you that childlike fascination to keep making amazing music? Because it's dope, bro.
Okay, so I always can equate my beginning love with music all the way back to me being a child playing the Nintendo Entertainment System. Because when you're so young, you're not really, from my experience, I'm not controlling the dial on the radio. I don't have money to buy CDs. I'm not the one playing the vinyl. A lot of the music, it's our environment. It's what we hear. It's what's playing around us. What your uncles is playing, what your mama's playing, what they playing in the neighborhood. But my first really, really deep connection with music that I'm hearing all the time was definitely those little 8-bit loops that kept playing over and over on these hard-ass NES games that you kept dying, because keep in mind, back in the days, nowadays when they make video games, they're putting millions and millions of dollars into these pieces, like it's like art pieces, right? And they make these cutscenes, and they want you to experience the game. There's still a level of difficulty, of course, because that challenge is what makes it fun, but at the end of the day, they do want you to experience all of their work. You gotta remember, back in the days of the NES, they gave zero fucks if you beat their game, bro. It was like, it was a claim. It was like a claim to fame if you beat some of those levels, man. Yo, Battletoads? Listen, this ain't, that kind of a podcast, so, bro, we could do a whole podcast on fucking Battletoads, man. Fuck that shit. That shit was hard as hell. But anyways, because you died so much, you kept hearing these same loops. Boop, 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 and then you had to do this shit again over and over. But a lot of these melodies, when you listen back, like being able to create something that you could hear over and over that you didn't get tired of, like we never got annoyed of these tunes. And still to this day, we can hum all of them, like without missing a note. So it was genius what these guys created with such limited technology. And that was definitely my first love. And even today, you listen to my music, you're gonna hear some 8-bit shit. I still have a sound from a Famicom synth that I still use to this day on almost all of my beats. But that's where it started for sure. And of course, obviously, it evolved since that point. But man, like, art is beautiful. In terms of me being able to still be inspired to create today, I think art is beautiful because there's so many different art forms: dance, acting, painting, whatever it is, music. But just the ability to create something from scratch, I call it the black canvas moment. That's what inspires me more than anything. That moment where an artist approaches a blank canvas. Like literally, it's just a white sheet, but you have your mediums, whether that's your paints, your pastels, or whatever. Or in terms of music, like there's no sound. Not until I press something, there's zero sound. That's the blank canvas. And that moment of just innocence, not knowing what's gonna happen, and then just getting lost in experimentation and exploration. The process is so fun and so fulfilling. In fact, once the beat is complete, you can enjoy the piece you made, but that's not the funnest part. You're not having fun again until you start creating again the next thing. So that process and standing in front of a blank canvas and knowing there's this adventure in this piece that you're about to breathe life into, that literally you have no idea what it's going to be, that moment is continually inspiring.
Right now you're listening to Firebugs. Before that was One for Super. And then before that was Kojiro. And before that was Lights Out off the Owala beat tape from TatzumaKiii, man. Guess episode number 29, man. Listen, man. So check it, man. What goes on in the mind of like TatzumaKiii as you hear samples or sounds you want to use in your production? And first, let me ask this question. It's a common question. Some people ask, melodies or drums, bro? Melodies or drums first, bro?
That's a dope question, because I think that back when you first start learning the art form of beat making, especially sample based, if you're learning how to sample in the beginning stages, you start just learning all of the techniques. You explore everything, sampling phrases, chopping them up, kind of like MPC style, cross 16 pads and flipping it that way, like on some Knife Wonder type shit, or like, you just explore and experiment any and every technique that's out there. You try to learn it all. So you go through that whole period first. You don't really have your own technique. You just learn all of the techniques. But then over time, you kind of start to have an idea what method connects with you most naturally. And you kind of tend to lean on a specific style. But then also, if you've learned all the techniques, then you know the right time to apply a certain technique. You see me, sometimes I might hear a sample and I know, okay, we're going to do it like this. We're gonna flip it like this, you know? So that's why I recommend for any and everybody, don't just learn one style and then that's it. Learn every single style of sampling, you know, build up your arsenal. But to answer the question, what I found that I most naturally lean towards is I'm not like a phrase sampler. I tend to more than likely not want to take a phrase, you know, like a boom, and then take that, and now it's like boom, boom. Now I got that looping, you know, and then I start flipping that whole phrase. And then I also found when I first started, I think like a lot of sample-based producers, you kind of do the same thing. You're like spread it out over 16 pads or on a grid, or you're chopping it by bar or by the beat or every 2 beats, and then you just kind of play it out, you know, and try to create a different composition. Early on in my sampling, I always kind of did that, but then I got bored of it because it was so predictable. Like I already knew kind of how the beat was going to sound even before I did it, and that wasn't good for me creatively. So what I most naturally lean towards, and pretty much what I always do now, when I hear a sample, I'm kind of listening for a sound. I'm listening for sounds. So I don't use auto chop, you know, because no machine's gonna know where I want to chop it. Like it might just be like a little instrument I hear. Like there's a part where a vocal comes over like a chime, and it's just an interesting sound, and it makes my ear perk. I'm like, ooh, you know, and I might chop that little part, or then I'll hear like a little boom, just a little Rhodes. I'm like, okay, take that Rhodes, you know? And then there's like a little synth moment where I can hear it, but see what's going on in my brain. I'm listening to it and I'm thinking about how the dynamics sound if I reversed it. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. I'm just have these ideas in my head. I'm going to try to take that little sound and reverse it, see how that works. And sometimes I'm listening to certain sounds and I hear it in the sample, but in my mind, I'm hearing, you know, I know how that would sound if I pitch it down or if I pitch it up and then reverse it. Or sometimes I'm like, okay, what if I take that sound and I time stretch it crazy? Like I want the artifacts and shit, you know? So that's my sampling approach. And because of that, the way I sample, you know, I even since the beginning of me learning how to make beats, I've always preferred to sample in a way that you can't really detect what I sampled or how I did it, you know. Like I like to challenge who sampled, you know. In fact, you know, it's no secret to a lot of people that follow me. One of my big inspirations is Flying Lotus. And, you know, earlier on when I was listening to Fly Low, like I was actually surprised. Like earlier on when I would look him up on who sampled, and I'm like, what? He sampled? Like I had no idea he was even sampling. Because sometimes it would sound so bugged out and crazy, but it's just his sampling technique was so subtle, you know. And I found that that's kind of naturally what I like to lean towards as well. You might not actually always know what I'm doing, how I sampled, how I flipped it, but please trust, the samples are all in it. I did flip it. And then drums or melody first. I like both for sure. It kind of depends where I'm at. Like there's a period where I was always kind of focused on melody first, and even if it's a sample, I would kind of play it to the metronome, because what I found when I do that, if I flip it a certain way, especially if I time stretched it really weird, and then you try to find the pocket to play the drums over that, like do the drums second, you get real interesting pockets that you wouldn't get if you started with drums first. So sometimes I like to do that. And if you look at like producers like Monty Booker, he does that a lot. And that's a lot of times why his drums are so like, you know, they sound different, because he's doing these interesting melodies first. But then because I focus on melody so much, I felt my drums were really lacking. Like my percussion, there were a lot of elements. If you listen to my early beats, in my opinion, my drums were really lacking. So in these last few months, I've heavily focused on my drums and focusing on my groove and my swing and my wonk, you know. So lately, I'm drums first because I'm really trying to lock in with the drums.
So let me ask you this, man. Like, what DAWs or analog machines do you use to create your music, and then why those ones? Like, from your videos, I see you use like Elf Audio, Koala Sampler, and MSXI Sound Design, iOS apps. Like, why those ones, man?
Okay, so I'll start by just giving a really quick arc of my... I was trying to think of a good word, but yeah, I guess just an arc of my use of equipment and DAWs up into how I ended up and landed on, you know, Koala, which primarily, if you know the name TatzumaKiii, you associate me with Koala at this point. So that's primarily what you've heard me use. But, you know, I made my very first beat. I mean, I loved music the whole time, my whole life, but it took me a while to finally decide, man, let me try actually making one myself. And I made my first beat in 2012. And by the way, I've always entertained, you know, how to make beats and wanted to make beats. And it's a whole nother story why it took me that long to finally just try to do it. So I won't take up too much time on that. However, when I finally got the urge to do it was when I got a job that actually supplied an iPad, and I always had it in my head because, you know, with me, I really like to go in on art forms if I really like it, and I didn't think it made sense without me even trying to make a beat to, you know, invest money in like a sampler or something, and then I try to do it and I'm like, oh man, nah, this ain't for me. It's like, okay, well, now I wasted this money on the sampler. So I always thought, you know what, it'd be cool to just try and buy a little app and just see how I like it. So my very first thing I ever made a beat on actually was an app. So it's funny, I kind of started like that. It was iMachine, an early form of iMachine. iMachine's still around, but they don't update it. It's not as good as it used to be. And now they got like iMachine 2.0, but this was like iMachine 1.0, even back at the time where the actual machine was still 1.0. It wasn't even machine 2.0 yet, like the actual machine. But iMachine, you know, it was very simple, very basic, just a little like 16 pads, had a little key thing. You couldn't really sequence either. You could just make a loop. But it could go all the way up to like 64 bars. And you know, this is me. I don't know what a bar is. I don't know what 2 bars is. I don't know what number to pick, 3, 4. I don't know what I'm doing. It's saying, do I want to quantize? I'm like, I don't even know what that means. Like even words like kick and snare. Like, I'm just being real. Like, I didn't know that they called it a kick. I knew what the sound was, but I'm just trying to let you know that's how green I was. So with that lack of knowledge, I just played around with it and I ended up making a beat. And even then, think about this, like, I don't know what any of that means, and my first beat still had a change up too. I was already coming with the change ups, so I still got that beat too. But anyways, that's a long drawn out story to say that I started on iMachine, and then once I realized I really like it and it came natural to me, like it just made sense, I then evolved to an app called Tabletop, which Tabletop, I think it's still around, but at that time it was new, and now I could start linking different things together, like little synth apps, and this was like iMPC, the app version of the MPC was new. So I got that and I started playing around, and the whole time I'm on these apps, this is like a period of like maybe a month or 2 months, to where I just realized, you know what, I love this. I'm all the way in. So then I finally ended up getting an actual machine. So I started on iMachine, but my first actual production equipment was a machine. This is when the program was still Machine 1.0, and then not too long after that, it went to Machine 2.0. So I was on Machine for quite a bit. And then from now, I just continued to evolve. I got an SP808, then a SP202, and then an SP44, and then even an MPC 1000 for a period. But I realized I kept coming back to the SP44 more than the MPC 1000. And then my life got so busy, especially with kids, I eventually became 100% SP44. Because I could carry it with me. You could throw batteries in it, and you know, I had to be a mobile producer, so it still allowed me to create when I had like a spare 10 minutes or 15 minutes here or there or something like that. So I was 404 for quite some time. I would use the 202 still though more as a processor to gritty up my sounds. But then once I discovered Koala, it allowed me to be even more mobile than the 404 because, you know, it still was a bulky unit you had to carry in your backpack. But the Koala is literally on my phone. Like at all times, you got your phone in your pocket. And it's like, okay, hold up. So I got an ill sampler in my pocket at all times. And then on top of that, it trumped the SP44 like crazy. Like, because, you know, I'm very melodic bass. And even on the 404, I was still playing a lot of melodies on my beats, but I had to use my machine for that. So it was a whole process of, you know, making my own samples on my machine, sampling that into the 404, and then flipping it on the 404. And actually, I would actually put it in the 202 first because, you know, it'd come out real clean out of machine. I'd put it through the 202 to kind of add a bit of grit and warmth, you could say. People know what I mean when I say warmth, but I don't think that's all the way accurate. But and then I would put it in the 404 and then chop it in sequence. I would do all my building like in the resampling and pattern sequencer. You know, and this is some nerd talk, but that's what the rec show's about, right? So that was a long process, right? And a bit cumbersome. But now on Koala, this little app, I can do it all in the app. Like, I got the keyboard, I can play my synths, I can play my bass lines, I can sample, I can chop, and it's all in my pocket. So, yeah, like Koala was a no-brainer for the way I wanted to work.
Hey, yo, I told y'all was gonna break your motherfucking necks. I told y'all was gonna break your necks, man. And he gave y'all the general surgeon's warning, man, at the beginning, man, before you even took a hit of this. Yo, man, TatzumaKiii, man. Yo, that's the guest for episode 29, man. So listen, Louisville to Sydney, Australia, aka Planet Names, is where you reside. But what were your musical influences growing up? And then what is like one moment that stands out in your childhood regarding music?
My musical influences growing up, man, I'm going to try to answer that without being all over the place. Because, you know, so much goes through my brain. But, you know, I guess just to keep it first organized, influences. Okay. So I first want to say DJ Unique. You know, cats that don't know DJ Unique is crazy. You probably just don't know the name, but trust me, you know DJ Unique. DJ Unique is one of the illest West Coast producers. He's the in-house producer of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, right? Some of the illest beats. Like, everybody fucks with Bone, but they don't know the name DJ Unique. I've done a deep dive on him, but that's just me growing up with the sounds of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. They're my first favorite group. And, you know, these beats, like, oh man, the Bone Thugs-n-Harmony beats, like, and then the way that Bone used to melodically flow on them, they were just, man, I just love that sound to this day. So, and actually my production technique is inspired by DJ Unique. We might get into that in a second, but so DJ Unique, definitely the RZA, like, in the purest form. And in one way, I would put RZA as my number one influence. So the RZA, and so if we're sticking with childhood, I could just say DJ Unique and the RZA. But as I continued to evolve and really listen and study music, you know, my favorite producers then began to be, you know, J Dilla, MF DOOM And when I say MF Doom, I say it as a producer. I mean, as an MC, obviously, but as a producer, his ear, you know, a lot of people get on Madlib about how a lot of his stuff is loops, but they're the best loops, you know, like he has that ear. That's a technique as well. But someone who was exceptional with that, and in my opinion, one of the best, and in my opinion, this is a hot take, even better than Madlib, was MF Doom. His ear, what he chose for his samples to be the majority of the track and the parts of the records that he chose, like, man, I got to see him. He came down to Sydney. I got to see him live, and seeing him perform live those tracks back to back to back. There was even a moment he stopped and said, "Hey, I know y'all loving these beats." And you know, it was just crazy. Like, MF Doom's ear is bananas. And I feel like enough people don't talk about him as a producer. But yeah, that's my hot take. His looping method is superior to Madlib's. I'm gonna leave that with the rec show. That's from TatzumaKiii. I said that. But you know, him, obviously J Dilla, and you know, man, there's so many. I'm inspired by so many, but those are definitely probably the tops. Oh, and of course, I gotta throw in Flying Lotus. I feel like the type of boundaries he pushed, the freedom, and to be honest, the whole LA beat scene, like, I mean, it's no question, like, how much what they've done in their movement has inspired me. You know, I think that's just completely obvious. You know, those guys, Sammy M, DiBiase, Daedalus, Gaslamp Killer, Ross G, like, come on. What they were doing was just crazy. And then when I heard what they were doing, I just realized, oh, okay. So yeah, this is just a whole art form in itself. Like, so we could just make the beats now. And we can just go crazy too, because we're not worried about a lyricist or a vocalist getting on it. So we can take up all the frequencies and tell the whole story our damn self. You know, when I saw them doing that, I was like, this is me. It just connected. Like, in a way, my spirit probably lives in LA, to be honest. I don't know. But so, yeah, man. But some moments that stand out from my childhood, basically, okay, being over my nana's house, you know, watching BET and D'Angelo Brown Sugar coming on. And yo, it's crazy. I'm trying to think back. I was probably in 5th grade or 6th grade. And you know what? No, not Brown Sugar. Me and Those Dreaming Eyes. Me and Those Dreaming Eyes of mine. Because I remember, like, seeing him playing all the instruments, like the video. Like, that just kind of bugged me out in my brain. I'm like, yo, he's doing the drums. He's singing. He's, you know, if you all know that video. If you don't know that music video, go back and look at that D'Angelo video. But my first musical things that really touched me were definitely R&B and melodic, you know, and that's what then, you know, went from D'Angelo, and then Bone Thugs and Harmony came out. Like, that hit me a certain way, you know. That right there for me, that's like 4th grade, you know, 5th grade, shit, yeah, like 4th, 5th grade, whatever. So, Creeping on the Comet came out. So, you know, those moments of like watching these music videos, and then the next probably big moment in my childhood where then it was just like a rocket ship out of here was Wu-Tang, you know, with, you know, being on the porch with my cousin, you know, at the apartment with his speakers just playing Wu-Tang as loud as he could, and me, I'm even uncomfortable. I'm like, yo, cousin Dwayne, is this too loud? Like, we outside? And he's like, nah. And it was just so loud, like Wu-Tang forever, all of that, you know. And then you know, being over my uncle's house and he's playing the Iron Man record, you know, on the cassette, you know, and then me starting to want to write lyrics. And my first time I'm writing lyrics, I'm trying to be like the RZA, you know, like I'm straight up, like literally my first rap I ever wrote was literally I copied the RZA's Tragedy. If y'all know the RZA, he's like, falling on your head like a tragedy. And he's like a vaccination, fascination, poor education, infatuation with satiable globalization, taxation. And he's just going crazy with these words. I took his whole rhyme structure and just changed the words. That was my first rhyme, you know? So when I think about my childhood musical influences, man, it's all of that.
Awala and your flips are like straight fire, yo. We already know this. Like, you get big ups from everybody everybody in the beat scene, man. Especially what I see on Twitter and Instagram. And the simple fact that you made Owala not just the music, but you made the videos behind Owala, man. That's something I've never seen before, and it was like amazing to watch that. Now that's why I had to, put my money where my mouth is and go ahead and support that project, man. So yeah, can you like tell me what your muses were when you were creating Owala?
Hey, first off too, man, I gotta add one more thing on that last question, man. I forgot Q-Tip.
Oh,
Yo, my
Q-Tip.
first favorite beat I ever heard, and I didn't think about it till I got older and thought back about the moment and realized how it was making me feel. But in the moment, I was just experiencing it. But the first time I ever saw the music video for Bonita Apple Bomb, like, first off, the video so ill. It's just this, these dudes walking down the street, and there's like there's little sketches and pastel animations that keep popping up on the screen. But man, the beat, those chords, bow, 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 boom, 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 boom. Like, the way that made me feel. And then Q-Tip, he's just talking. Like, hey, Bonita, glad to meet you. Then he let the beat go. Kind of stunning you missed, I must beseech you. Like, oh, that moment, that song, that's probably, if someone asked me what's my number one favorite beat of all time, it's that Bonita Apple Bomb beat. That was my ringtone for mad years in the ringtone era. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so Q-Tip, definitely. And yo, thank you, man. I appreciate that. Like, Walla. By the way, I've been hearing some people say Owala. I knew that would happen, and that's totally fine. But I think most people get what I'm saying. In the koala community, that's a term that I coined. Like I would call cats my wallas. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the koala gang. And I say walla. You feel me? And that's some koala shit. And I always had it in my head that my first album, I went around with different titles. I was like, I'm gonna call it Walla shit, because I say that a lot. When I post, I might just say, hey, some more Walla shit. So I thought I was gonna call it that. I thought I was gonna call it the Walla tape, and then I was like, you know what? Just Walla. That's it. That's what this is. But in terms of muse, I assume you asking, what's my inspirations, and it's kind of funny how that turned out, because it ended up me having tons of, a lot of productions that I've developed throughout this time, and I selected the ones that I felt like were my best tracks and that made the most impact, and the majority of the tracks on that were specifically crafted for battle. Like, they came from the pressure cooker of me being up against the wall and preparing to battle. And when you're trying to battle, like, you're trying to go hard, you're trying to show out. That's why the energy of Walla, it's a pretty high energy tape. There's only one moment where the energy starts to dip, and that was by design. Like, I sequenced it that way to give you a little bit of a break. Because, if I was affected when you're listening to it, you probably nodding your head crazy, right? So there's a little dip in the middle where the energy dips down to give you a little break, and then boom, right away, it's like espresso bean cannon, like we going hard again, till the end. Like, it ends with Frieza Omega, like we just going hard, So a lot of those beats came from different battles that I took part in the community. And to give an example, 2 of those that ended up being, when I kind of did my own personal survey and saw like what most people's favorite tracks were on Walla, the majority of people refer to Elevation, which is where I flipped. I'll give this to the record, so everybody don't know what I flipped on that. I flipped Aaliyah's 4-page letter. If you listen to that, that's me flipping Aaliyah's 4-page letter. And the second one, which is a bit more obvious, is Brandy obviously I was trying to show out on that one. I flipped Senorita, because you hear that in the beginning. Yeah, those two tracks specifically were when I made it into Smack Pack. You know, Ski, I'm very honored that he put me in the Smack Pack Volume 6 finals. That was my first time in the battle. My first match was against Landscape, and if I made it to the next match, it was going to be against Soundtrack. But the thing was, I'm very honored that Ski thought that my submission was good enough and quality enough to be put into the battle, but to be honest, really, it was too early for me. I wasn't ready for that type of a battle. I didn't have enough tracks. You know, my tracks weren't deep enough. I didn't have enough battle-ready tracks. And within a week, I didn't have time to cook a bunch of new stuff. So, to be honest, I was ill-equipped, and I didn't have the right tracks to really compete with Landscape, and I didn't make it to the second round. But the second round, those are the two tracks I was able to make that week. I made Elevation and I made Brandy, which those tracks, you know, are pretty crazy. They're pretty crazy. And the way that those came out was me imagining having a battle soundtrack, which y'all know in the Smack Pack streets, well, all of the streets, but especially the Smack Pack street soundtrack, his battle approach was crazy. It was crazy. And in fact, that one, Volume 6, probably to me, in my opinion, was the best Smack Pack battle in history. The finals ended up being Soundtrack versus Duke Westlake. The best Smack Pack finals ever to this day. Like, that was crazy. But anyways, so I never got to play those two. I never got to play them in the battle. That would have been dope. But yeah, just to say, that was definitely an inspiration. The majority of those tracks, I was really preparing for battle.
Hey, this is Strong Maurice, and you're listening to The Wreck Show with my guy, Gldnmnd.
Yo, so this is a new game I created called Superheroes, right? You play it by naming your childhood, teenager, and adult beat maker or music producer superheroes. And Major key, no genres off limits, my guy. So let us know, man.
Word, superheroes, okay. Childhood, teenager, and as an adult. Okay, some of those I already hit on, but you know what? With childhood, I've already hit on DJ Unique, for 1000% DJ Unique. You know what Bone was, man, like in like that 93 to like 96. Those first two albums, Creeping on the Come Up and E99 back to back, like DJ Unique's sound, the way he would sample. You use a sample a lot of the way other cats were sampling, but your favorite parts though was what he played over it. And if you hear a lot of my production, it's a lot of me, like I'll sample, but I pretty much am always playing something over it. And I think a lot of that comes back to my love of DJ Unique's style. So definitely him, and then Timbaland, 1000%, because that's like that same era, you know, when Timbaland was making that shit with Genuine specifically. Genuine, 100%. The combination of Genuine, but especially the team of Static Major, who's also from Louisville, Kentucky, 502, one of the best to fucking do it. The harmonies, yo. And then the songwriting. But anyway, Static Major and Timbaland, that team, like I still will never forget where I remember where I was, what I was doing the first time I heard So Anxious. I still remember where I was and when I experienced it and how I was like, yo, what the fuck is this? And I need this. And I need to listen to this, like non-stop. Like, you know, like that's a part of me. That's a part of TatzumaKiii too, and myself. And look, y'all are about to hear that more. Like, while it was what it was, like I said, you know, that came from battle and me just coming out like on some hear me roar, my name is TatzumaKiii, like what's up? Like that was me putting my foot in the dirt, like yo, beat scene, what up? Yo, it's Tatsu. You know, that's what Walla was. But now on the next one, you know, at the moment it's tentatively titled Zaru. You're gonna see a bit more of that lane. Like when you hear me talk about the R&B shit and how that inspired me in D'Angelo and you know, Timbaland, Static, and Genuine. Watch my next album, you're gonna get it. You're gonna hear that element of me for sure. But anyways, that would be the childhood for sure. Then teenager, 1000% the RZA. You heard me talk about that. But you gotta understand, I'm walking around high school with a Wu-Tang belt buckle. You feel me? Like, I got on eBay, I bought a $10 Wu-Tang chain. You feel me? Like, the shit breaks and shit, but it's like, that was the thing, you know, early 2000s, cats had those big fake chains trying to be like Cash Money, you know, but it had the big W emblem, the fake diamonds. Like, I was that cat in high school. Hey, let me tell you something, man. Let me tell you one more thing. Dude, my government name's Aaron Dickerson, right? So because my last name's Dickerson, I took that, the D, and I was the Dizza. Like, if cat, I'm not making this shit up. Cats that know me from high school, like my graduating class, to this day, they call me the Dizza. You know what I'm saying? And I graduated in 2003. I had a whole thing. You know, if they said, hey, what's up? I said, oh, yo, what up? You know, what's the D to the A after the Z, repping for the 2000 plus 3. You know, like, I was on my woo shit, all right? I'm still to this day on my woo shit. But listen, the RZA, yes, I've already spoke on him for sure. But then I also got to say, let me see, teenager, all right. Yeah, so definitely the RZA, he got the teenage shit, like, locked down. But then as an adult, it's almost cliche to say, but it's true, that almost completely belongs to Dilla. And I feel like Dilla's interesting because he wasn't a front man like Diddy, like even Timbaland. Like, you knew what Timbaland looked like Catchy knew, like, but Dilla, you know, he's like in the corner of his basement making the illest shit, and you ain't gonna know unless you're reading in the vinyl and shit like that. You know, Dilla was like that. So I think a lot of people's experience was they fell in love with the Dilla at a certain point and didn't even realize all the tracks he was making till then they started doing research. That's kind of was like me with Dilla, you know. So I realized Dilla was actually my favorite the whole entire time, but I didn't realize actually about Dilla till later. You know, I'd say more till like late teenage, kind of like early college, to be honest. But even though I discovered them then, and donuts and all that, and when you start doing the research, I'm like, oh, hold up, my favorite Farside joint is Drop. Like that reverse sample, the way that was reversed, I've always loved that beat. I never knew who made it. So hold up, you telling me Dilla did that shit? And hold up, my favorite Erykah Badu song of all time this whole entire time has been Didn't You Know, Didn't You Know? You know, Didn't You Know? And hold up, you telling me he produced that? You know, so it was like, I feel like a lot of people experience Dilla like that. It's like, he's been my favorite, my number one favorite the whole entire time. I just didn't know his name and what he was doing until later. But then when you go back and do the history, and to be honest, Static Major was the same. It's like when you learn the name Static Major, you start looking back at all the records he did, you know? Like Aaliyah, Missy, like all your favorite tracks. Static Major wrote that shit, you know? He even did like the reference. They just copied his reference. So, yeah, man, they'll be my superheroes, bro.
Yo, so now that you're a little older and wiser, what advice would you give the younger you when you first started making beats? And part 2 of that is like, what would be your advice on artists being creative while working on 1 or maybe 2 jobs to support themselves? Because, you know, it's a lot of us doing that, man.
To be honest, I feel like I did it right. If I had to tell my younger self that was first learning to make music, I would be like, hey, you doing it right, bro. Keep doing it. The reason I say that is because I just realized early on, you know what? Let me try to organize my thoughts. So basically, I should start by saying some people know that, you know, I learned the craft of beat making for almost like 9 years. 9 years I've just been making beats, you know, learning to make beats. I have all these projects that were unfinished, all these experiments, just that whole process of just learning before I even officially made a post. Like my very first post, you can look on Instagram. That's when I came out to the world. I consider it as TatzumaKiii. I think the date, it's in my head because I looked at it recently. It's December 19th, 2020. So, I mean, look, just to keep it clean, let's just say 2021 January. You know what I mean? Like literally this year. But I made my first beat in 2012. So all of that time, where's the beats? What have I been doing? Well, I realized early on, kind of like everybody, when I was first making, like I told you on iMachine, I would make a beat. And, it was a thing, like, even in the app, it was attached to SoundCloud, so you could just upload the shit right away. And, you kind of just psyched that you made something. And to you, it's amazing. It sounds amazing because you can't believe that you actually made something. Like, it's a beat. So you sharing it to your family, like, hey, yo, you sharing it to a couple friends that's in the music, like, hey, check this out. And look, they're responding positively to it because they love you, right? But look, it's not good. Your first beat just is not good. Like, you don't even know what's good or bad. You don't know anything about EQing. You don't know about when something's muddy. You don't know, like, to pan. Like, the levels is off like that. Just, it's not good. You know what I'm saying? But I was just posting, like, all of my very first beats. And then I just noticed when I kept trying to share it with people, like, yo, check this out. Like, yo, check this out. To my friends and family. Each one, they started to respond less and less until I realized I'm just posting stuff on SoundCloud. Nobody's listening to it. Like, what am I doing? And then it just got in my head. I'm like, yo, I shouldn't even be worried about this. Like, I don't need to share anything. I don't even need a SoundCloud. And I feel like that's what a lot of artists do in today's society because it's so easy to share. Cats just want to share. Like cats don't even know how to make beats yet, and they talking about they making a beat tape. Like, you got this mixed up. But because I come from a martial arts background, I understand process. I understand developing a skill. I understand how you develop an art form. Because of how I've dedicated myself to martial arts, I have the experience of what it takes and the time to really build a craft. So because I already had that experience, I kind of knew how I needed to approach music as well. So because of that, I learned pretty quickly that, you know what, I'm just going to learn this craft. I'm not concerned about getting likes or making posts or anything like that. And because of that, I kind of pretty much decided I'm probably never going to share any of my music until I reach a certain standard. And what that standard was until something that I feel that is good, different, and unique, and I have a sound, So that's why by the time I finally shared something, it ended up, actually, if you look at my very first post on Instagram, it's what ended up being on Walla as Lights Out. So you think about Lights Out, like kind of nothing really sounds like that, to be honest. It's like juke inspired, but then it's not even juke though. It's not like, I don't even think of footwork or could footwork to that. Like, it's like it's beat shit. It's got a crazy 8-bit, wonky bass line on it. People don't even know what I flipped on that. Again, this is the rec show, so I'm gonna let y'all know that on that was actually a Christmas flip. I flipped Chris Brown's Wish You a Merry, actually, was it? There's like a single. It's like Chris Brown did a Merry Christmas or something like that. Chris Brown's The Last Christmas or something like that. There's a Chris Brown Christmas song. That's how I did Lights Out. Like, I flipped that shit crazy, So you could see that it wasn't until I'm doing shit like that I decided, okay, it's time. And then from there, I'm posting and getting it. So to answer this question, like, I think I did it right. I figured it out. If I was like posting stuff early, I would have been telling myself, hey, slow down. Just develop the craft first. Have an identity and then come out. So I think I did it right. And then for your second question, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, you know what, man? this is my perspective, especially in today's era. I think the goal is to not have to rely on music for, you know, sustainability, for stability, or art, period. To me, I think the goal is to be able to find stability outside of it, outside of the art, so that then the art, now you're allowed to just be free and fully creative. Because if you have the pressure that now you're actually having to create for stability, well, now that pressure is going to kind of guide you and lead you and to try to do what's gonna, you know, be the most beneficial financially or whatever. If you realize that there's something that people are consuming the most, you're now no longer just freely expressing yourself because you have so much financial pressure on having to do well, whatever, with the music, because that's where you've put all the pressure. You're having to now lean towards kind of, you know, trends and things like that. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. But if it's not your thing, well, now you're being forced to go outside of what you really want to express. So my goal is actually not to have to rely on the art for stability. Instead, try to find the means for that outside of the art. Whatever you got to do, whatever hustles or whatever, so that the art can now be completely free of that kind of pressure, and you could just focus on being creative. Because now, you know, there's it's not high risk, it's not high stakes, and you don't have to worry about taking a chance, because at the end of the day, I think art, you should be taking chances. And if you hear my music, like, my music's all about taking a risk. Like, I know cats might not always fuck with it or understand it or digest it, but the ones that do, you know, hey, we speak the same language.
Yo, man, you really taking me back to like Dragon Ball Z, like when they just train, and then when they feel like they're ready, they powered up, boom, that's when they go and fight like other characters, man. That's what I feel like, you know what I mean, you possess with how you present yourself and your craft and your music, man. So I appreciate that, yo. So listen, man, what is the beatmaker music production scene like in Sydney, Australia? Like, and then how do you connect with other like-minded beat makers and producers? Like, I know somebody that was a guest at this show, man, Strong Maurice, man. I know he lives in that area. So like, how do y'all group up and connect and display y'all's beats and battle and all that stuff, man?
Sydney, Australia, you know, it's like the people are here, but it's not a community yet. And to be honest, that is some aspirations I have. You know, I see what my homies are doing over in the States, and, you know, I definitely have plans and goals to try to bring together a community here in Sydney. Because look, Australia has an awesome beat scene, actually, but I'd say the probably biggest, most pronounced, most illustrious one is Melbourne. And Melbourne is known for their art, culture, and music, period. Melbourne's an awesome city. And then even Brisbane, they have, you know, they have a pretty developed beat scene and culture, and they have radio stations that play, you know, the beat makers out there. You know, they got a little label, Spare Time Collective. You know, Melbourne has some stuff like that too, you know. So what I notice is that Sydney does have like a hip-hop scene, but I don't feel like it's as close-knit as like what I see in Melbourne and Brisbane. But I definitely have aspirations to do some stuff out here, like I see the homies doing out in the States. Like we don't have that stuff here, like the Flip a Beat Club. Shout out to the homie Mons Rock, you know, and the Divi Flip sessions, and even like, you know, what Beat Cinema does, or like even like, man, to be honest, I've had thoughts in my head of even like bring it back, because you know I'm a kind of a historian with this beat music shit, and you know I've done a lot of research and like even like the sketchbook and stuff like that. And look, I've never been into low end theory, but you know I've even thought about almost trying to bring that concept back into Sydney, you know, because sketchbook is ill. Like, I'll be honest, there's a long time I thought that was just a name. I didn't realize that cats actually had sketchbooks, and it was combining art and music. Like, that's just fire. Like, I love that stuff. So it's definitely on my heart and my mind to try to develop a community out here, and I do have some ideas and approaches that I think will possibly be effective, because I think there's a hunger for it. And how do I connect the beat makers and producers? I mean, hey, the same way we connected, homie. Like, literally, I think first off, the beat scenes online are amazing, but I feel like specifically in terms of the beat scenes is Instagram is just, it's amazing. Like, even more than Twitter, more than Facebook. You know, it's like IG is almost like, I feel like what I hear MySpace used to be. I wasn't a beat maker in those days, but I was a user of MySpace, and I was playing cats beats on my MySpace. You know, I was still a part of that community, but I wasn't, you know, one of the musicians at that time. But you know, IG, the way you can connect with people for art, it's an amazing platform. And even though people hate on it, they hate on the algorithms, things that they don't like about it, at the end of the day, the scene on Instagram, there's nothing like it anywhere else on the internet. It's just not. And then since COVID happened and it brought a lot of people inside, you know, I think it made the community just blossom on Instagram. And now there's a lot of sub communities in Discord. I know Discord is really popping. Look, I just can't keep up with all the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's pretty much one Discord that I really fuck with, and that's Stolen Drums Sidechain Society. You know, I'm a part of Sidechain. And I've had tons of Discord channels that I realized I just never looked at. So I ended up deleting them all. And I'm pretty much on Sidechain. But Instagram, you know, pretty much if you're a beat maker and you're now out, like, again, you know, you heard me and me in my early beat making. I don't suggest or force that people jump on Insta or jump out there and start sharing their stuff till you're ready. But when you're ready, though, if you're not on Instagram, you're missing out.
Okay, I feel you, yo. So, like, let me ask you this, man. In your opinion, how do you think artists such as yourself can benefit from total control over your music, its distribution with, like, emerging technologies like cryptocurrency and then the blockchain, NFTs, all that type of stuff?
I'll be all the way honest, man. I'm not even all the way up on that. Like, cryptocurrency, blockchain, man, I'm not the one that is can even speak knowledgeable on that yet. However, I can feel the energy. There is some excitement in the fact that as this continues to evolve, I do understand the potential of how it can bring power to the artist, a level that really hasn't ever been seen, you know, by artists before us. So I think it is an exciting time to be an artist. But I am inspired and motivated to learn more about it. I do like what things like Audius are doing. The fact that they jumped on it as early as they did gives them the potential to, man, as this stuff evolves, really be a giant. And I do believe that in time, something like Audius can overcome Spotify, Tidal, Apple, all of that. You know, it's just... You know how it is, man. You jump on something so early, you're ahead of your time. You know, just a lot comes with that, man. It takes some time, and everybody's not ready to jump on it or just not educated enough. And I'm also not educated. And I think it's so new that even something like Audius is still trying to figure it out. Like, they're not always for sure how to distribute, you know, their currency and how it should be done. It's all so new. So, but I am excited towards the potential and possibility for sure. But yeah, I need to educate myself more on that, to be honest.
Okay, honest assessment, man. You know, we all learning at the same time you are, man. So you got time. But yeah, man, for anybody that's listening, man, make sure you study it, man. Study this. All my beat makers, my music producers, study this, man. It's the way of more control and more, royalties, all that stuff, man. All right, so next question, man. So listen, man. Final question? What should the internets look out for TatzumaKiii in the remainder of 2021, which is only maybe a week or 2 weeks into 2022? And what do you have on your horizon? You know what I mean? Plug your socials, plug your new projects coming out soon, all that stuff, man.
Shout out to Combat Jack, man. Rest in paradise, the internets. You know what I'm saying? You gotta always give respect to Combat Jack for that one. But the way I put it, 2021 was the introduction. Like I said, I spent a lot of time developing my craft. And now 2021, I came out like, yo, this Tatsu, what up? You feel me? That's what 2021 has been. Now 2022 though, 2021, I feel like I conquered a lot of my goals in terms of making a name for myself in the scene. But 2021, we just gonna go bigger and better. Of course, there's gonna be the follow-up to Walla, which I'm almost finished with the tracks, almost. But I have big plans for this one. This is definitely going to be a step up. In a way, Walla was me learning further my sound. Uzaru is like the elevation. It's like the Ascended Saiyan level 2 version musically. But no, we stepping things up. Here's what you got to look out for. 2022. First off, I'm going to start my own radio channel on Blast Radio. Blast Radio is an awesome platform. If you haven't tapped in with it yet, I was put onto it by the homie Alex Meltzer. I watched his show. I loved it. It's a place where artists can have pretty much their own channel, and it's like radio. It's pretty much Twitch without visuals. It's audio. It's taking it back to the radio format, which things always go full circle. We are so saturated and overwhelmed by visual and audio that when I was checking out Alex's channel and it just being focused on audio and just something you could just listen and experience, it was very refreshing and it inspired me. And I'm going to start my own channel. It's going to be called Gldnmnd Groove Radio. And I'm about to become the funk master flex of the beat scene. You watch. Shout out to Matty J, who came up with the term funk maki flex. You feel me? We're about to really coin that. We're going to turn it up. I'm about to create the best goddamn beat show on the planet. And that's facts. It ain't going to be anything like it. It's going to be on Blast Radio. That's going to start January 2022. Look out for that. And at some point I'll also probably on there. A lot of people have been wanting to watch my workflows. That's been a request for a long time. They want me on IG Live. They want a Twitch. They want a YouTube video. The first opportunity you're gonna get to hear me create live will be on Blast Radio as well. It's pretty much gonna be a beat show. Like that's gonna happen on a weekly basis. However, occasionally I'm gonna have different special shows on a different day of the week where you might get to hear me create something from scratch. And I realized that I really enjoyed that. Monty Booker started his Twitch stream and I wasn't able to be live for the Twitch, but sometimes they would rip it and put it on YouTube. And the only time I had time to listen to it was while I was driving. So I didn't get to watch it. I was just listening to him create. And while I'm driving, it was just amazing just listening to the process. And that's how I know that this is how I want to do it. Originally you won't get to see me. You're just going to hear it. You're going to hear the process. You want to know how does TatzumaKiii make these compositions on Koala? You're going to get that opportunity this year. So look out for that. Gldnmnd Groove Radio. TatzumaKiii, Funk Maki Flex coming. Look out for my next album, Uzaru. Also, 2022 is going to be the year of the collaborations. There's been some collaborations I've been hinting at for quite some time, but those are going to come to fruition. The two at the top, for one, is my clan, T-Wave. That's going to be me, Telly McLean, and TatzumaKiii. We really about to come with a sound, but we're still working it out. It's not even fully fleshed out yet, but we know that we're pretty much going to create a sound that, for one, y'all won't expect from us, which you shouldn't. It's TatzumaKiii, TatzumaKiii, and Telly. Tatsu, TatzumaKiii, and Telly. What does that sound like? Well, you have no idea. You're going to hear what we do, though. That's coming. And then you hear my juke inspired shit, right? Well, one of my favorite juke albums is by one of my favorite beatmakers, Alejandro. If you want to look up Alejandro, it's AL3JXDRO. Alejandro, he has an album called Move, where it's his take on house music and then footwork. But his footwork is phenomenal. And off of that, I contacted him and just expressed love, you know. And then from there, we started actually a relationship, you know. We vibed. And we're actually making a collab album that will also come out at some point next year called Gldnmnd. Shout out to All in the Zone who coined that term. I give him all the love and credit for that. Gldnmnd. So we got T-Wave coming. That's going to be an electronic album with Tatsu, TatzumaKiii, Telly. We got a Chicago footwork album coming out with Alejandro called Gldnmnd. And then this just came up, me and your boy, the amazing Japanese beatmaker. In terms of beat scenes, I'm gonna be honest, Japan probably has my favorite beat scene right now. Like, I could just start dropping names right now. But your boy and I, he hit me up personally on collaborating on a project with him because he got contacted by a Japanese record label that wants to make a tape and they want him to collaborate with somebody, and he hit me up. And yo, this is the Rec Show. I'm gonna let you all know our intention, and this is how ill this is gonna be. We're basically making an ode to the fallen beats spirit of the beat scene, Ross G. Me and your boy are basically gonna make an album with a sound that is an ode to Ross G's sound. That's gonna be a tape on a Japanese record label. That's coming out 2022. And then just recently, my homie hit me up. I'm about to drop this too. Me and your boy Strong Maurice, who has been lighting up IG. If you don't know Strong Maurice now, what are you? Hey, open your IG right now. What the fuck you doing? Hey, go and follow Strong Maurice, all right? He's crazy, right? And he's out of Australia. He hit me up. We working on a project. You know what I'm saying? And that one, all of these collaborations are hella different. This one with Strong, you know, I think this one's going to take some time. Probably won't be soon. We're going to take our time with it. But it's going to be, shit, I ain't going to tell y'all what that was going to be like. But it's going to be different. And yeah, man. But on top of all of that, though, probably the first one to hit. Oh, goddamn. I got to mention, too. Last but not least, I actually have a record about to drop with a record label called Late Bloomer. The reason I almost forgot that because it's really current. But it's going to be pretty much a house project. My take on house with Late Bloomer, which is also a collaboration with my Sunday School Beats family, DG Organic. And that's going to be a big drop in January. So stay tuned for that. And then on top of that, we're going to start the YouTube as well. The Namekia Network. Hey, 2022 TatzumaKiii takeover. You feel me? We taking this shit over. Hey, and by the way, I'm doing this shit for the beat culture. You feel me? Funk Maki Flex, Namekian Groove Radio. Watch out for the music. We taking this shit over. And hey, Gldnmnd, what you doing for the culture is beautiful, man. We love you. Thank you so much. It's been an honor. You even wanting to look into my mind and giving a fuck about what I want to say. Sorry if I ramble too much, you feel me? But I'm passionate about this shit. Like, I love beat music, if y'all can't tell. I love music. And yo, if y'all enjoyed this, man, definitely go back in the Rec Show's archives. Like, it is so many jewels and gems and great interviews. So definitely do that. Give I Am Gldnmnd a follow as well. He's really trying to do this shit for the culture. And yo, man, it's been an honor. Thank you.
Yo, hey man, TatzumaKiii, man, I appreciate you, man. I'm just trying to do my part, man. Instead of just being a taker, man, I figured I'd come up with something I wanted to really do, and I love doing this every week. Connecting with the beat makers and music producers around the world, man, and getting different perspectives and mindsets. And yo, none of y'all ever say I started and I quit. None of y'all ever say that shit, man. Yo, so I appreciate you, man. Yo, TatzumaKiii, everybody check out TatzumaKiii at Bandcamp. Check him out on the social, Instagram, Twitter. Follow him, man. Support that Owala beat tape, man. Yo, I'm telling you, man, you're gonna thank yourself later, man. And thanks to Bandcamp.com, and it got that replay thing on there now, you feel me? So shout out to Bandcamp, man. Yo, man, I'm expecting some amazing shit, man. Yo, just to name the artist that he talked about, man. Telling me clean and all of them. Yo, it's about to be Bud Night. So, but yo, I ain't gonna hold you, man. I appreciate y'all, man. Y'all know what it is. Gldnmnd signing out till next week, man. Peace and love.
They tell like younger kids or other dudes like, that's cheating. You can't really do yourself with your bro. Like when it comes to this producing shit, you can do whatever you want.
You've been listening to the Rec Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Remember 3 things. Believe in your music. Take care of your mental. Become the best version of yourself. Until the next one, Gldnmnd signing off. Peace and love, yo.
To be the best, you got to work overtime. To be the best, you got to work overtime.